Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Early Morning Crypto Talk this Friday morning. And Facebook was not acting right, so we got to do a YouTube Live instead of a Facebook Live. Finished our first full week of 2020, and I mean work week. So congratulations on making it this far. As a disclaimer, I'm not a licensed financial advisor to be giving financial advice. I read the news, give my opinion, share a suggestion, and it is up to you to make an informed, intelligent decision on which direction you want to move into. Go ahead, type in the chat box where you're listening in from. I see Tony Pinkston. Good morning. Stan Williams from Florida. Hey, Stan, are you coming out to Cali at the end of this month? I know Pretty was talking about that, the 31st or something. Diana Townsend, you made it live. Back in Atlanta. My cousin Marnita. Good morning. LaShayna from Richmond. Bethany Gibbs from Seattle. Good morning, everybody. There's 4 rules I live by in the crypto space to have success. Rule number 1, education is key. Rule number 2, never invest money you cannot afford to lose. Rule number 3, always get a return on investment back as fast as possible. And rule number 4, where do you see yourself in 3 months, 6 months, a year from now? What are you willing to do to make it happen? Make a decision, find a vehicle, take action, stay focused, and do not get distracted. Now, following these rules is not going to guarantee you success, but it will at least minimize your risk. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the most. So please hit the thumbs up button. I don't do this often on YouTube, so let people know that we've got something going on. Hey, good deal, Stan. I know my partner, Ron Ross, will be out here as well. So I'll probably bring him with me out to that investment meeting. So I'll meet you guys out there. See who else we have. We've got Marcos from Florida, Brian Roberts from Maryland, Marty from Victoria, Marcos from Beth Preston, Florida. I have never heard of Beth Preston, I don't think. Stuart from New York. First full week is finished. Well, almost. We're still at the morning time. Almost finished. I'm going to have a new model going into this year. I've been using the same theme song for the last year and a half, so I'm going to be switching to Happy in the morning. It's getting me pumped up. For real. Let's look at the market cap. It is at $211 billion. It is up 2.1% over the last 24 hours. So those of you in Coinbit Pro, you saw my training yesterday. We didn't know at which direction this thing was going to go in when we ended it. So it has gone up 2.1%. The last 24 hours, Bitcoin has been up 1.1%. As you see, it was on a downward ever since President Trump announced a cease to hostilities against, it's Beth. It's in Preston. That's why I'm like, Preston, Florida. I didn't know, but that's Beth Preston in Florida on Marcos' account. Okay. But ever since Trump announced a cease to hostilities with Iran militaristically, the market stabilized and Bitcoin started to come right back down to where now what I did not know is, will it go back to previous records before we bombed the general, or will it stabilize? And it looks to have a little bit of a bounce over the last 24 hours. The last hour, the market is pretty much flat line. Let's look at some news. I've got 4 articles to cover today. Let's talk about the SEC. SEC Commission's Compliance Office lists digital assets as top priority for 2020. So this, if you're in America, we have people that log in all over the world, you definitely got to pay attention to this. Anytime the SEC, the FTC, the government, the IRS starts to even mention crypto, or in this case, digital assets, we got to know the law. The SEC's Commission of Office Compliance Inspections and Examinations has announced its top priority for 2020. I'm going to give also some free suggestion here. This is also the season for new companies to pop up and spring up all over the place because it's a new year, especially in the crypto space. One question you always want to ask is, especially if they're doing business in the United States, is their legal representation? Do they have any? And then even if they do, are they listening to legal and compliance? Because just because you have legal representation doesn't mean you are following. In the case of the Up to Give Academy, not only do we have legal representation, but we don't move a muscle without them. And they change stuff up depending on how the laws change. They just did it to us. So if you saw my presentation the last 2 nights, you'll see where the adjustments have been made as far as how the program is working going forward, how we can do contributions and whatnot. We got to follow the law. All right. So if you're with a company or you see a company and they're doing none of that, major red flag. Okay, the list released on Tuesday and published annually contains categories that are viewed as potential risks to investors and U.S. capital markets. Digital assets are identified as one of the several key priorities among the commissioner's broader mission of enforcing the federal securities laws, proposing new rules. See, there it is right there. New rules and regulating the securities industry. According to SEC Chairman Jay Clayton, OCIE's 2020 examination priorities identify key areas of risk, both existing and emerging, that we expect self-regulatory organizations, clearing firms, investment advisors, and other market participants to identify and mitigate. As the digital asset space reaches new corridors through innovative blockchain and cryptocurrency platforms, utility tokens, speculative new assets, and consumer applications, OCIE will continue to identify and examine SEC-registered firms engaged in the industry. Okay, so we've got their priorities as retail investors, including seniors and people saving for retirement. Market infrastructure. Wait a minute, what does that mean? I know retail investor, but they're talking about seniors and people saving for retirement. The baby boomers is the seniors. Well, yeah, and the people saving for retirement, Generation X. In what way? Do you mean saving for retirement using digital assets? Because you already got everything in place for IRA or the, what do you call it, your savings account, your 401k, IRA, all that stuff. But are they acknowledging now that individuals are saving using cryptocurrency? Because that matters. They call that capital gains. Market infrastructure, information security, what does that mean? Or how does that apply here? Or, I'm reading this wrong. Not all of this has to do with digital assets. This is just their priorities for 2020. Okay, so I was reading that wrong. Focus areas relating to investment advisors, investment companies, broker-dealers, and municipal advisors, anti-money laundering programs, financial technology, fintech, there we go, and innovation, including digital assets and electronic investment advice, Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA, and Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, MSRB oversight. So that's what it means right here. It is financial technology and innovation, fintech. It's one of their priorities. Okay, I got it. All right. Speaking of the Up to Give Academy, I don't know if you guys are excited, but January 15th is coming up real quick. And there's going to be a launch webinar at 12 p.m. Eastern Time on January 15th with a huge announcement with a partnership with STI. This is going to be a record year for some of you guys for 2020. Okay, next up. Here's why the Bitcoin halving is definitely not priced in. Now, there was a lot of articles I saw the topics this morning. There was one I just couldn't get to, like about Ripple. I have a big eye on Ripple, but this caught my attention because I made a decision at the end of October last year. I made a decision that shifted my course, and I was on the same course since January 2018. So you go all of 2018 and almost all of 2019, all the way to October, I was one tunnel vision focus. The problem was that there was just too many forces outside of my control. So it did not matter what I did. It did not matter how many cities I flew to, how many Bitcoin boot camps I did, how many, none of that mattered at the end of the day. So I was forced to have to make a course correction. I didn't stop what I was doing. I just did not make it the only thing and the only focus. And the reason why I was forced to have to make that course correction is because May 2020, Bitcoin halving takes place. It only happens every 4 years. The first time it happened, Bitcoin grew by over 3,500%. The second time it happened, Bitcoin grew by over 4,500%. This is the third time it happens. See, the first time it happened, Bitcoin reached $1,000 for the first time. The second time it happened, Bitcoin reached over almost $20,000 for the first time. What do you think is going to happen on the third time around? The rocket ship's going to take off. So I knew I was running out of time, and I'm not getting any younger. I'm 43 and a half years old, and I don't know where time is flying. It just seems like yesterday I turned 40. And the last 2 years, I've been stuck in quicksand, not moving forward. So I made good money, but it's like I feel like I lost 2 years. So I need to make that up. Like Colton Bug says, time compression. I need to make up those 2 years. And I'm going to make up those 2 years in the next 5 months. So that's why everything that you see me doing, anything that you see me talking about is towards that goal because of this, the Bitcoin halving. The goal is to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible by the time the halving takes place. Now, I do not believe Bitcoin is going to all of a sudden skyrocket immediately after the halving. I'm preparing for 2021. The year I turned 40. Oh, my goodness, the year I turned 45. Yeah, man, these first half of my 40s is flying by. I had a goal when I was in my 20s that I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I turned 35 and a multimillionaire by the time I turned 45. Multi. Well, I didn't become a millionaire by the time I turned 35. But I did walk off my job and fire my boss and live the flip-flop lifestyle. Come and go as I please, do what I want, don't have to answer to nobody, make enough money to pay all my bills, and travel. And that ain't bad. Sometimes you got to shoot for the moon. If you fall short, you land amongst the stars. Now, I'm 3 years away from 45. Not only will I be a millionaire, but a multi-millionaire. So at least I'm going to hit that goal by 45. So time was running out. That's why anything you see me do, I am unapologetic about it. We got to do what we got to do. But it's because of this halving that's got me, moving. Crypto analyst and economist Alex Kruger is weighing in on the intense debate over Bitcoin's halving. Analysts appear increasingly divided on whether the event, which will reduce the amount of new Bitcoin entering the market by half, will affect the price of the leading cryptocurrency. Predictions are wide-ranging. Some say Bitcoin's past price history shows halvings have an immediate and irrefutable bullish effect on Bitcoin. Others say Bitcoin's price will rise in the months before the halving. And plenty of forecasters say traders should be prepared for the halving to have no impact whatsoever. That is me. I'm prepared for it to have no impact now, but it will in 2021. As for Kruger, he says the run-up to the halving will be key. Discussing if the Bitcoin halving is priced in or not a full 5 months before the halving takes place, makes no sense. The date is too far off for the market to have any clarity about it. If price experiences a significant bull run into the halving, one could then think halving may be priced in. For a somewhat analogous analysis, can have a look at how price run up into CME futures launch in December 7, 2017, or look at risk assets around elections or FOMC events. That's a legitimate thing to say. Let me break that down in layman's terms. What they're talking about. They're saying that the hype alone is going to artificially push the price up more than its actual value because everybody's preparing for the halving. Therefore, when it actually halves, there's not going to be any movement in the price because it's already been put in there because of the hype. And they're using 2017. If you guys were around between November, halfway through November, and then December 17th, Bitcoin went from like $5,000 to $19,000 in 30 days or 5 weeks. About 5 or 6 weeks, about 5 weeks. And one of the hype around that was for the very first time the futures market was coming on board. Chicago Mercantile Exchange and the CBDOE. CBDOE came on first, exactly December 17th, and the CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, 1 week later. Everybody was hyped because they thought that institutional investors were about to flood in and pump the Bitcoin market up with volume, and the price was going to skyrocket. So everybody and their mama was getting in at that time in crypto at the end of 2017. What ended up happening was the opposite. The moment, literally the day the CBOE launched, the market started to drop all the way through the end of December and into January in 2018. And the reason is because the institutional investors saw the value of Bitcoin, how it was rising, and it was surviving at this time 8 years, and it was still there. And it did all of that, best performing asset, without them. So you know what they did? They came in and hit the reset button and manipulated the market all the way down. And that scared everybody. They thought there was crashing. Most people, you know that old saying, if you hear about the party and it's already going on, by the time you got in, it's already too late. You got people jumping into Bitcoin for the first time at $14,000 and $15,000 a coin. And then it drops all the way down to $6,000, $5,000, $3,000 a coin. They panicked, sold all their Bitcoin, and who do you think bought them all up? The wealthy people did. They shook the tree. So they're saying that they think that another artificial run like 2017 may happen right before May. But I'll tell you this, if it does, it will drop again big time before the year is out. If there's a $20,000 coin run right before May happens, it is not going to last. It will correct itself. All right, so that's in layman's terms what he's saying here. He says the event is definitely not priced in due to the simple fact that no one knows what miners, who essentially create and earn new Bitcoin by verifying transactions, will do. The priced in argument is based on miner issuance reduction being fully deterministic. However, miners' behavior is not so. Miners speculate with inventories and accumulate. Supply may thus decrease at the halving or even increase if prices are not high enough. Bitcoin's halving happen approximately every 4 years, with the next one coming in May. They are designed to slow the pace of new Bitcoins entering to the market until the total market supply of 21 million coins is reached. And guess what? Already 18 million coins have been mined. 18 million. Which means they only got 3 more million to go. But do you know how long it's going to take for those 3 million coins to be mined? All the way to 2140. 120 years from now is when the last Bitcoin will officially be mined. See how they stretched that out? That is why the price of Bitcoin will continue to rise because of supply and demand. All right, next article up. Let's go to international news. Major Brazilian bank takes next step to shut down crypto-related business accounts. This has happened in the United States. Bank of America did it to their business account holders back in 2017. I haven't heard reports of it happening lately, but they did do this. Banco Bradesco, one of the largest commercial banking institutions in Brazil, is reportedly refusing to abide by any agreements that would prevent the closure of accounts opened by local cryptocurrency exchanges. Banco Bradesco rejected a request from the Brazilian Association of Cryptocurrencies and Blockchain asking the nation's Administrative Council of Economic Defense to reach an agreement that would prevent the shutdown of accounts created by digital asset exchanges. Reports news outlet Cryptonoticias, based on a document issued by Bradesco. Last year, the CADE informed that it wasn't illegal for local financial institutions to suspend banking services being offered to local exchanges. The CADE ruled there is no evidence of antitrust crimes as a result of the rejection of some banks to establish contracts with certain cryptocurrency exchanges. CADE's recent stance is different from its previous ruling, which said that these types of accounts had adequate antitrust elements. Responding to the bank's position, the ABCB says that the institution's decision is full of darkness, contradictions, and omissions. Banco Bradesco's management argues that cryptocurrency transactions may involve illicit activities. Here we go. That's what the banks always do. We got to shut it down because of fraud, money laundering. All right, that's information from Brazil. And let's move to China. President Xi's blockchain strategy unfolds as China Exim Bank executives, executes cross-border payment using new tech. Now, this is very important. This word here, cross-border payment. Who is China really allied with? Who is their bloc as a communist nation? It ain't the United States. It definitely is not Japan. They are mortal enemies. It is North Korea, Russia, and Iran. And why would they partner with these countries? Because they represent a bloc against the West, United States, Britain, Germany, Italy, Spain, the allies from World War II. Now, what's interesting, in World War II, China was our ally because they were fighting against the Japanese. But, things have changed. So here's also why this is important. If you're paying attention to the news, there was a press conference just this morning. Mike Pompeo and Steve Mnuchin. And the press conference talked about implementing new sanctions on Iran, the biggest sanctions they've ever have seen before, which would cripple the nation. So if you're in Iran and you're being faced with an overwhelming military against you and economic sanctions from the world, what do? You look for an alternative. You got to avoid the sanctions. It's forcing them to move in this direction much faster than they would normally. So they're going to really start to adopt digital currency, cryptocurrency, look to create their own, and look at their partners and allies so that they can figure out ways that they can continue to do business with each other without having to go through Western banks or using the US dollar. So knowing this, I see news like this. President Xi's blockchain strategy, and their main bank is trying to execute cross-border payments so that they can do business with Iran and Russia. Here's something else that they did for the first time, and I don't know if it's in my lifetime. Last week, they held joint naval exercises. What? Russia, China, Iran, joint naval exercises. So they're combining forces on the military front, and they're definitely combining forces and creating an infrastructure on the financial front, all with one goal: to reduce Washington's influence around the world and to become independent of the U.S. dollar. Here's another thing that they're doing: selling all U.S. debt. United States, what, did we cross 23 trillion yet? 23 trillion in debt. We're the richest nation on the planet, yet we're also the brokest at the same time. We're the country that's got the biggest debt. Americans are broke and don't know it. They think they're middle class, and we're one paycheck away from being on the street. We can't afford a $400 emergency if it happened to us today. Most Americans don't even have $1,000 in their savings accounts. Just to pay rent's taking up more than 50% of their check. And then you got to add health insurance and everything else on that. Raising kids, putting them through school and college. My wife was even looking at, when we went to school, I forgot what it was, like $15,000 a year or something. My son, it's more than $30,000 a year for college, only to graduate to have jobs available that can't pay if he had student loans. Luckily, he got scholarships. But we're able to barely survive because the rest of the world is buying our debt because they're relying on the U.S. dollar. But what happens when the U.S. dollar starts to lose value? When the rest of the world decides not to use it anymore? Who's going to be left holding the bag? Us. Inflation's going to shoot through the roof. You think it's bad in Venezuela, we're going to end up like them. Lashane is right. The richest country, yet homeless popping up all over the place. And we also have something that's called the working poor. Oh, we have the lowest unemployment rate in the world. Just because grandma can work at McDonald's doesn't mean she's making enough money to pay for her medicine. Just because you work in a job doesn't mean you're able to afford rent. We have a working poor population. In Los Angeles County, you need to have at least $200,000 a year to be considered middle class. This is reality. So if the rest of the world, and that's the status quo, if the rest of the world messes up our status quo, it's not going to get better for us. It's going to get far, far worse. Let me read the article. The Export-Import Bank of China, China Exim Bank, has completed its first exchange payment using a blockchain platform, marking another milestone in the country's efforts to seize the opportunity of the emerging technology. In October of 2019, President Xi Jinping announced that China would embrace blockchain across all industries. Let me stop right there. What did I say in 2017? Hey, and everything that I do is recorded, so everything I said in 2017 is still out there on Facebook and YouTube. What did I come to a realization? It was around April or May 2017. There's two things I figured out, and one of them was that blockchain technology is going to disrupt every single industry on the planet today, like it or not. I figured that out then. And what is the president of China saying right now? That China's going to embrace blockchain technology across all, not some, not a few, not a test, not many, all industries. in a mission to become the world leader in its deployment. Now let me go back to what Vladimir Putin said in 2016. Two things that he said, and I quote, "The Stone Age did not end due to the lack of stones. Look around, the stones are still on the ground. The Stone Age ended due to the introduction of better technology." The second thing he said was, whatever nation leads the world in this technology will become the new world superpower. And those nations that do not will live underneath the thumb of those who do. Putin said that in 2016. We've got President Xi Jinping saying that they're going to embrace blockchain technology in every industry so that they can become the world leader in its deployment. And the United States president says, "Oh, Bitcoin is a scam. It's not real. It's not real money. Cash is king. It's the U.S. dollar will always remain on top." That's what our government's saying right now. So where do you think we're going to end up on the pecking order in the next 10 years if we follow the same route? I ask questions so that you can critically think on your own and come to the conclusion yourself. I already know what's happening. I never ask a question I don't know the answer to. But he says, calling the technology an important breakthrough. Xi has not asked, not recommended, not suggested, not advised. He has mandated. This is law. The country's business leaders to use it to enhance processes related to finance, the improvement of mass transit, and the what? Alleviation of poverty. I have my quote. I have my quote for the day for Facebook. There it is. In the latest implementation, the Xiamen branch of China, Exim Bank used the state-owned cross-border financial blockchain platform to facilitate a foreign exchange payment to Xiamen shipbuilding industry company, reports Sina Finance, making it the first policy bank in the country to handle such a transaction. I'm going to answer another question. I don't do these quotes on Facebook because I'm trying to teach and educate people who are following my Facebook page. That's not why I do it. I do it because Facebook records everything you do. And every year it pops up stuff that you said a year ago. I'm doing it for historical purposes, so that there's a paper trail the next 5-10 years that shows, and my family can see, wow, Brandon was on the right thing back then. That's why I do it. I'm not trying to be entertaining. I had this talk with my youngest son yesterday. I told him, I said, you know, I started making YouTube videos for the first time in 2009. And I have over 10 years of recordings and videos of my progress, my teachings, my trainings, my ups and downs, my philosophies. And I was letting him know that our family, generations from now, will be able to listen to my voice and see my face and see exactly what our family was doing at this time in this day and age, because we are living through something that's very, very unique and rare right now. Great time to be alive right now. And it's somebody in the family's got to be the one to do it. I told him, I said, I feel ashamed that I cannot remember my grandfather's voice. He passed away about 25 years ago. I remember conversation. I remember my last conversation with him before he got sick. I was in college. I remember the whole conversation, what we talked about. But what bugs the hell out of me is I cannot remember his voice. He was very soft-spoken. He's like my oldest son, very quiet, only spoke if he needed to. I remember talking with, as a kid, growing up, I can't remember his voice. It bothers me. And I told my son, you guys, when I'm long and gone, will be able to see and hear everything I talked about, thousands upon thousands of hours worth. That's why I do this stuff. All right, let me continue. Traditionally, businesses must file a request with the tax department to present a filing form to the bank window in order to complete foreign exchange payments. The new blockchain model saves enterprises the time it takes to make multiple round trips, reducing audits and transaction costs while streamlining the procedure. You know, it's still bugging me. I can't remember my grandfather's voice. My other grandfather, Jesse Lee Robinson from Louisiana, I remember his voice like yesterday. I can hear it in my head right now. But he was very outspoken, and he passed away before. I was early in high school when he passed away, 30-something years ago. But I remember it. I hear his voice in my head right now. Boy, get off that, turn that TV channel. Get off that couch, boy. Give me my cigarettes, boy. I remember it like yesterday. But he was speaking all the time. But my other grandpa, I just can't. Grandpa Ivey. Anyways, China Exim Bank is one of the 3 institutional banks in the country chartered to implement state policies. It engages in foreign trade in order to promote the export of Chinese products and services. This is a powerful thing right here. We've got one of the largest countries in the world. Our rival, their president, is 100% on board with blockchain technology. I didn't say Bitcoin, but he wants to lead their nation into the future, where our president, well, he's doing the opposite. If that's what you want, hey, there you go. That's your president. But from a long-scale thing, we are not leading the world in this. We're going to be behind. Now, that's as a nation. That doesn't mean you as an individual is going to be behind, because this is still America. This is not a communist. We don't have a king or a queen. You have complete control over what you and your family do. As Jim Rohn says, build a financial wall around your family so high nothing can penetrate it. You still have that right. Russians and Chinese don't have that like you guys do. That freedom. So instead of us focusing right now on our government, we focus on what we need to do. That's why I said at the very beginning, I'm doing the things I'm doing. The Up to Give Academy, crypto education, Crowd One. Those are my 3 focuses going into 2020. Is that where I will end up 2020? I have no idea. But that's what I'm using right now. Speaking of the fact, January 15th, Up to Give Academy launches. My partner, Peter Blackwell, is doing a big presentation today for Crowd One. I was looking at the back office, and I'm just amazed. I think I'm almost at 1.2 million people have joined since I joined. 1.2 million. My organization alone has more than 10 million euro in volume, and I haven't done anything yet. 10 million in euro. This is actually, which was tripping me out, is the biggest build that I've had in one company in the last 5 or 6 years, and I haven't done anything yet because it's not even allowed legally in the United States. They've got my attention. 20,000 something people a day is joining it around the world. So I am looking for people. If you're in Canada, Mexico, Australia, Africa, I definitely want to talk to you. If you're in America, the best we can do right now is get positioned and start to build and be ready for when it does come to America. That's as best as we can do for Americans because it's not here yet, but we can get positioned. This is something like, you guys know Peter Blackwell. I've been working with him for years. This is making him a bona fide European millionaire by the summer. Actually, before then, he should be there by April. The only difference between me and him on this is he's been building out one leg. I haven't yet. That's all. Which means I'm going to be right there too. Which means so can you. And that's just one of the things. It's not even the thing I'm most excited about. What I'm most excited about is the Up to Give Academy, January 15th. We're going to help revolutionize the world with that. Here's what I can say about it. People say, well, how much money are you going to make with that thing? You know what? What if I tell you this? I have a goal to be contributing more than $60,000 a month to a charitable cause every single month. How about that? That's my goal, to contribute more than $60,000 a month to charitable causes every single month. You do the math, you add this up on a yearly basis, 60,000 times 12. That's $720,000 a year that I want to be contributing to a charitable cause. That's what the Up to Give Academy is all about, and the Training Institute. All right, everybody. I hope you learned something new. There is that presentation with Peter Blackwell for Crowd 1 at 12 p.m. At 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. Send me a private message, and I'll give you the link so you can hop on that. Tomorrow, I'm doing the Up to Give Academy presentation at same time. Oh, wow, I'm going to do that because Peter's going to be doing it. Oh, no, he does it at 3 p.m. I'm doing it at 12 p.m. Eastern. So 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific tomorrow. Up to Give Academy. Shoot me a message, and I'll give you the link for that as well. And then crypto education. I can't stress this enough. If you sign up with our Coinbit Pro group and get the Pro Pack, I will also give you my private services to see how you're doing with your crypto portfolio and kind of point you in the right direction on some things. But I did a training yesterday. We do a training once a week. And if you are a part of that, if you listened to my training last week to this week, you would have made more than 20% on your Bitcoin from the information that we shared. That is not a hype. That is a fact. I showed it off yesterday. I showed the proof and the evidence of it. My training from last Saturday to the one I did yesterday, there's things I said last Saturday that if you executed it, you would have made more than 20%. Education is everything. That's my number one thing. So if you want crypto education and you need it, look at our competitors. They're forcing this in China. They're not forcing it here in America. We got to do it on our own. Step out there and get it done. All right. Have a great day, everybody. See you all tomorrow. Bitcoin Brandon out. Bye-bye.